we are excited to have you all here. That's a big question. I'll give you the short version. I was 18 years old, which was just literally a couple years ago. And I was painting, sketching, drawing, charcoals, pen and inks, acrylics. And my oldest brother suggested that I add photography to my artistic desires. And I did, and I shot a roll of film. He showed me how to process in the darkroom, and I was hooked to the point where the very next day, and to this day, I haven't drawn, sketched, charcoaled, or acrylic since. I just gave it all up and said, I'm going to do this photography. The immediacy of the print was just phenomenal, because many of my drawings and sketches, pen and inks, were very detailed and would take upwards of 4, 5, 6 days. And I could get what I want in 125th of a second. So that's it. And that was 1970. And for the first 5 years, I dreamed of doing nothing but photography. And starting in 1975, that's all I've been doing. And up to that point, I put myself in the position of learning photography by working at a camera store. And I was fortunate to work at a camera store that catered to some of the few working professionals in Portland, Oregon at the time. And not all by any means, but a couple were kind enough and generous enough to share some knowledge with me. Well, first of all, I've been to 89 countries, which isn't by any means a world record. Not that it's supposed to be, but I've been to 89, and of those that I've been to, I could easily go back over and over and over and over to Ethiopia, India, and the south of France. My top 3. Places I haven't been that I'd love to go is, as I call it, I would like to do the stands. I've been to Pakistan, but I haven't been to the other stands. Turkmenistan, I believe, is one. Kazakhstan, and there's a few others. I haven't explored much about them other than what little I know. I'm intrigued and interested for both people and the terrain and the landscape reasons. So, maybe Mongolia, maybe. I'm working on a potential journey there, doing a workshop. But I've done South America enough where I don't know if I'll ever go back. Central America, same thing. Can't get enough of Southeast Asia. But if I had to choose, it would be the stands to go to, and if I can't go anywhere but my top 3, then I'm happy. That actually came from coming back from Burundi. That was way back, just prior to genocide, with the Rwandan, the movie Hotel Rwanda depicts that episode. I was there just before that, but the tension was really, really thick. It didn't involve me, but it was the war, so to speak, between the Hutus and the Tutsis. And as an American there, I got into a little bit of trouble where I was in a place I shouldn't have been, and was initially thought, for reasons to this day I don't know why, but that I was accused of working for the Tanzanian militia, which was on the border with Burundi. And there was, for whatever reason, some skirmishes going on, and I got involved where I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, where there's some military operations going on, and I was taking photos. But I didn't know I was shooting anything military. Anyway, make a long story short, spent a little time in jail, And then when I got back to America, when I landed in LA, I came out of customs and I was like, oh, God bless America. That's the only time I've ever had any issues in Africa. And I've been to many countries. I never felt anything but welcome pretty much everywhere I've gone.
What would be your advice to people who want to do the photography business?
You really, really need to become proficient. Photoshop, not necessarily Lightroom, but certainly Photoshop and Bridge, because much of what work you'll be doing will require a lot of what I call post-processing, and including setting yourself in a position to create images without much expense, that you'll assemble images in the computer to save the client money. Case in point would be UPS used to send me around the world 13 years in a row. We'd go out and shoot different countries and the drivers, beautiful scenery with the drivers delivering packages. Nowadays, that's done with the blue screen of a driver, and then you drop them into the scene. And UPS, for the most part, is not going to that expense anymore. I don't know if UPS is doing this, because I haven't worked for them since 2002. But everybody's a photographer. There's a number of things that corporations are doing which involve having employees take photos. And then they use these employee photos with some degree of manipulation and post-processing and create an annual report at a much, much greater reduced cost. So ultimately, I will say this. Nothing's changed in this one respect today than it was when I was doing this for a living full-time, commercial work. And that was that you got the work, you got the attention, because no one was doing what you were doing. No one was doing what they wanted done as well as you. Therefore, you got the work. Yet, there's wedding photographers, and then there's wedding photographers, where people who have the budget, they got the money, they can hire a real good wedding photographer, where when it's all said and done, it looks like you just got done doing a big shoot for Brides Magazine or a big fashion spread for Vogue. Those kinds of images, people are willing to pay for because they can't get it without having to pay for it. But if you want to be just what I call a point-and-shoot wedding photographer, with not a whole lot of creativity, but just a recording of the wedding itself, there's a number of clients for you who are willing to pay that kind of money, which is hardly anything. And you can make a living doing it. But again, if you really, really want to make a living, then you need to separate yourself, much like a thoroughbred horse in a Kentucky Derby. And not all the horses get an invitation to go to that, only the best. And it's the same idea with this commercial work today, that if you're really, really good, you'll have no trouble finding work. But I will say this, you also then need to do the work to find the work. Many people are under the notion that if they just post on Instagram or Facebook, that they'll be discovered. It doesn't work that way. So instead of waiting for somebody to discover you, you go make yourself discoverable. Which means, very simply, you contact ad agencies and graphic designers all over the U.S., as one example. And I don't know if AdBase is still in business, so I'm a little ignorant about this, but at a time when I was doing this, we used a company called AdBase. And AdBase had a phenomenal program of who's who in New York, who's who in LA, who's who in Chicago. And these art directors were people you would send a direct mail piece to. And that's something that doesn't happen today. People don't do that anymore, which is unfortunate, because they think all you need is a website or all you need is an Instagram account, which I don't know why people think that, but it's so not the case. If you send a printed piece, even now, to this day, to an ad agency or to an art director, to graphic designers, to magazines even, trade publications. If you contact these people, especially with a printed piece, they can actually feel and look at, you'll be hitting home runs much more so than anybody else. Action! 1, 2, 3. Whoa, there we go. Holy smokes.